Welcome to Just Ecology. Today I'm at Whroo in central Victoria, south of Rushworth, and we're going to take a look at the amazing grey grass tree, Xanthria glauca. So I've just come across this amazing stand of the grey grass tree, and you might have seen similar grass tree species in coastal sites on more sandier soil. But this species is actually much different in terms of it occurs only in the box ironbark forests of central Victoria, and it's a critically endangered species. So it only occurs in kind of drier forests on kind of stonier soils, and it's got a very different ecology to the coastal, what we call the austral grass tree. So unlike the austral grass tree, this species is extremely fire sensitive. So if a fire affects the coastal species, the austral grass tree, you actually get, if it's not too hot and not too frequent, the trees will respond quite favourably. There'll be often a mass flowering event. Whereas this beautiful grey grass tree is very fire sensitive. If it's burnt at even low intensities, it can actually kill the plant. And this is quite interesting because it actually tells us a bit, I think, about the ecosystem it occurs in, the box ironbark forest. There was a review done on looking at the historical literature to see if there was any evidence of Aboriginal burning in these forests, and actually found no evidence of burning, which is not proof, but it's unlike the nearby grasslands and grassy woodlands, they just couldn't find any evidence that the box ironbark were managed with fire by Aboriginal people. And it's interesting that the ecology of these species suggests that they haven't actually adapted to that fire regime either. So the fact that this species is found in the box ironbark, and if it's affected by fire, it actually kills it, makes you wonder, was there much fire at all? Which is concerning because a lot of these forests are being heavily targeted for planned burning, even though there is very little fuel in these habitats. And a lot of these grey grass trees are getting wiped out by burning, carried out by the Victorian government. You see these beautiful skirt, what we call the skirt of the grey grass tree. This, as the leaves die off, you get they kind of accumulate this skirt, and this is actually incredible habitat for a lot of species. They've found that there's a lot of small mammals that will actually kind of nest in this really dense skirt. Unfortunately, during all of these planned burns, when they're trying to get the fire to light, they'll actually come up and they'll set the skirt on fire because it's an easier way to get the fire going, which is often to do with not knowing about these amazing species and not knowing that it's going to kill the tree. But I think we can do better in terms of trying to protect this species. So the distribution of the grey grass tree is mostly across a small area of central Victoria, and the largest concentration of populations appears to be around kind of Greytown, Heathcote, kind of Rushworth area. And so we're really trying to map these populations and try and get them excluded from the planned burns, because unfortunately if the planned burns continue burning as much of the box ironbark as has been happening the last 10 years, we're going to really see this species possibly wiped out in the next over the following decades. And very sadly, some of the other threats this species faces is from a fungus called the cinnamon fungus, which can be spread through the forest by vehicles, soil getting moved around. And you can see in this population, this is classic signs of the cinnamon fungus. Not all the species in the bush are affected, but grey grass tree is, as you can see, can be plants that might be hundreds of years old can be unfortunately wiped out. So it's really important that to minimise how much of that soil is kind of moved around, how much contamination happens, because this can be the result. So this is actually the grass tree isn't flowering right now, but you can see this is an old flowering spike, and the light isn't great at the moment. It's actually raining, but you can see how tall this spike is. So when you see this species in flower, it's got a flowering spike that can be up to 2 meters long, and it'll be covered in little flowers, and really attracts a lot of different butterflies, lots of insects. And the shaft was actually used, Aboriginal people often use these shafts of the grass tree for lighting fires when they were drilling to start a fire. using this lovely stem of the flower from the grey grass tree. So if left alone, these trees can live for hundreds of years. You can see this one in front of me. They're quite very slow growing, and some of these are really ancient. I estimate it's often not hard to tell, but at least a couple of hundred years old.